Hello and welcome to another edition of Safe Communities. My name is Joe McDonald. I am the Sheriff of Plymouth County, and I'm glad that you've tuned in and chosen to spend a little time with us. I have another great guest joining me here today, an old friend and great employee at the Sheriff's Office, Mr. Chris Bittaker. He is our fleet supervisor. He is the gentleman who is in charge of seeing that all those vehicles that you see driving all over the county and really all over the state that have that Plymouth County insignia and star on the side are up and running and up to the task. So, Chris, thank you for coming.
Well, thank you for having me today, Sheriff.
Outstanding. We're glad to have you. Your title, your job title, is that of fleet supervisor, and if you could explain a little bit of what that entails.
Okay. Well, we have 100 vehicles in our fleet, a variety of transportation, farm, BCI, K9. What we do is we do all the maintenance. Keep them up and running. We spec them, we build them, we buy them, keep them running, and keep them safe and do it as cost effectively as we possibly can.
Nice. You know, it's interesting. I know a lot of people who may be watching the show are going to think that you probably have the coolest and most interesting job in the department, and I think that there may be something to that.
Oh, that's true. It is. It's very enjoyable. I love coming to work every day. It's always an adventure. Since I was a kid, I loved anything to do with wheels, motors, cars. I think car was one of the first words I ever said.
And it's interesting too, especially now, because we're living kind of in an exciting time as far as emergency vehicles and in particular police cruisers go, because as long as I can remember, the Ford Motor Company has controlled that market, and the Crown Victoria, which is a wonderful vehicle, has dominated virtually everywhere. I can remember back when I was a kid in the 70s and the 60s, you may have had some of the Chrysler products there as well. Occasionally you saw Chevrolet products, but really for the last 25, 30 years, maybe more.
I'd say even a little bit longer.
Yeah, it's been Ford. What's new in the world of emergency public safety vehicles?
The whole gamut has changed these days. All the manufacturers are trying to get back in it. Ford has been working for at least the past 5 years on the changeover from the Crown Vic. That kind of went away after a long period of time. Part of it was crash test ratings, where they had to do something. They were full-frame cars. They weren't passing a new crash test rating. Ford spent 5 years, went to a variety of law enforcement agencies throughout the country, assembled a team, and they put together what the new vehicles are, which is the Taurus and the Ford Explorer. And a lot of input from officers, boots on the ground, the guys that were going to be in them every day, and they came up with a very nice vehicle that is working great for us. We all had the hue and cry to start with. Oh my God, the Crown Vic is going away. It's the workhorse. But when they came around with the Taurus and the Explorer, they were knowing what they were doing. They got involved. Roush Engineering got involved. Roush Racing. They put some work in with Ford Motor Company on these, and the interiors, the mechanicals, the whole package is very nice now with the police cars. And Chevy is working on their own stuff. Dodge is working on their own stuff. But for us as a fleet, the Fords are tried and true. I've been with the Sheriff's Department since 2007, and Ford has done such a good job. They've changed me from a Dodge guy. I own a Ford myself now.
Your personal vehicle is a Ford?
Yeah, I bought a Ford Focus ST.
Yeah, which was a surprise to me, because as long as I've known you, you've been a Mopar guy. But it's, and some of the styling on some of these vehicles is the performance is great. I know a lot of the Dodges, those Charger vehicles that were being used or are being used as cruisers, very, very nice looking vehicles, very functional vehicles, and very high performance vehicles.
Definitely.
Yeah, and it's interesting to note, and a lot of people have commented to me that they're seeing more and more SUVs used as police cruisers.
It's the turn of events is definitely going that way. In New England, for us, it works very well because we have a variety of weather that we have to contend with. And the Crown Vic sometimes wouldn't always do so well in the winter, you know, being a rear-wheel drive car. The Explorers, they're an all-wheel drive car. How they set this up, these are a little bit low to the ground, so they have a better control. They used a lot of work in the suspensions, but just the all-wheel drive gives you far more stability, and it gives you stability at speed as well. So for us in New England that have the rain, the sleet, the snow, and everything else, you may be in a cranberry bog or you may be down on the beach, these vehicles are the way to go. And the Taurus is available in all-wheel drive, and the Explorer. And another thing that they've done also is they've decreased the size of the power plants, gone to 6-cylinder engines instead of 8-cylinder, but the power is still there. Which, you know, the Crown Vic was an 8-cylinder, almost 250 horsepower. You're getting the same thing out of a 6-cylinder with a better fuel economy now, which is all good for us.
The technology, the advances have really been amazing. What they're getting out of those 6-cylinder power plants is incredible. And as you correctly point out, as an agency head, it's nice to me and to the bottom line that they're getting better fuel economy.
Definitely.
You know, which over the course of all those vehicles and all those miles over a year is a lot of money. And they're more environmentally friendly. You know, we have less by way of emissions and things like that. And, you know, as you pointed out earlier, we're a Ford agency, and, you know, we were before, and we're probably going to stay that way.
I would say.
And, you know, and I think the product has been great and continues to be great. But if I'm not mistaken, I remember reading someplace, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that the #1 police cruiser now has gone from, you know, the old sedan to the SUV platform, specifically that Ford Explorer police package that we see the state police going to now, many of our local police departments. Is that correct?
That is correct. Ford thought that the Taurus was going to be the #1 seller, and ended up to be, because the officers now have to carry more and more with them. The room in an Explorer gives you the ability, and gives better comfort for the officer too. It's got a vest on, a duty belt, but there's so much more utilization in the SUVs.
So much more equipment that can be carried.
Right.
No, I think that's, and it's not just, and you would expect such a thing here in New England, where our weather can, you know, sometimes be less than cooperative, and snowstorms can happen, but it seems to be nationwide.
Yeah, you are seeing it throughout the country. I think Ford was a little surprised by that. They thought they were going to sell 2-to-1 the Taurus, and it's actually transverse.
It's been the other way around,
Yeah, they're selling more Explorers.
Interesting.
You know, the price point's minimal difference between the two. And again, Ford was very good with the engineering on these. All the drivetrain, the brakes, the tires, the rims are interchangeable between the Tauruses and the Explorer. So for me, that means I only have to stock 1 set of rotors, 1 set of pads, 1 set of tires, which can be very interesting when you have a variety of vehicles around. Makes it more cost effective for us as well.
Well, that's great. You know, as the manager, the bottom line is always what I've got my eye on, and that's a good thing. But you mentioned very early at the outset, and I have in my notes here, you know, we have close to 100, or?
Oh, we have 100 plated vehicles on the road, and then we have a couple of tractors and a few things at the farm.
Over on the farm,
and whatnot. So we stay very busy. We are as busy as any small garage on the South Shore.
Yeah, and then, you know, when you look at the number of miles traveled, you know, people may not be aware that not only do we have the BCI, the Bureau of Criminal Investigation deputies that are all throughout the county, but probably the most prevalent vehicle that we have as far as numbers and miles driven is going to be our transportation vans.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about the transportation vans.
Well, our transport vans, which are currently the Ford Econoline E350, which has been a wonderful workhorse for us through many years, you'll see them at any area of the state. I've been up the 495 corridor going to MHQ or to other vendors, and wherever there's a court or an inmate that needs to be, that's where we are. So they will go. We have vans that we see every 26 to 28 days in for an oil change. because of the mileage. The average van will go minimum 30,000 miles a year.
Wow.
Throughout the state, and we have 16 vans in our transportation and ICE division right now. So they're our highest mileage vans. They're out every day. We have a couple that are out any hour with the Safe Keep program.
Yep.
So they've been good. That's the next change in the forefront in the industry.
The new vans coming down the road,
Right.
yeah. I've been told we've got, they're doing away with that platform and coming up with...
Yeah, they're retiring the Econoline and they're calling it a Transit. It's not really a new vehicle. Ford is going with a global platform, a world platform. These have been in Europe for 15 years. I took a family vacation 2 years ago and was over in Ireland and Europe, and I visited several police stations and ambulance corps to see if I could take a look at them. And it'll be an interesting vehicle coming up. We're just hoping that it will do the same, be as much of a workhorse as the Econoline E350 for us.
Well, that's good to know. I was in Ireland this past summer as well and did notice use by public safety over in
wide
Ireland.
Use, a lot of them.
So, that makes me feel good because we know that it's been alpha tested.
Yes.
We know that they work and they seem to work well. What remains to be seen is how they translate to here. The amount of miles that we put on, and people may not be aware, those vans, sometimes our inmates, what those vans are doing is bringing them not just to medical appointments or things, but bringing them to courts. And we have jurisdictional boundaries, but the criminals don't necessarily. So they could have open cases in here and up in Norfolk County and as far west as Hamden or Franklin County or Berkshire County. So we could be traveling millions of, actually, how many miles do we do in a year?
We are over 1,250,000 right now, with still a few weeks to go in the year.
Wow. And that's this year, 1.25 million?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we'll be north of that.
Wow. And that's a lot of driving, but you understand geographically there's, you got to take these folks to where they have to be. It's part of our jobs. But it also, presents challenges to you guys. How many people work in the garage with you?
There is a staff of 3, including myself. I have 2 very talented staff members. I have a corrections officer mechanic that's been with the department a long time. He's tried and true. Our assistant fleet supervisor is extremely talented. He is ASE certified master technician in everything that ASE offers.
Wow.
He's been a great boon to us. He helps us, give us the ability that we don't send anything outside of our garage to do except for state inspection stickers, front end alignments, and we need to send our cars out to have them painted because you have to have a special paint booth. But we do everything in-house. That helps save the department money, helps save the taxpayers' money.
So everything from warranty work?
Warranty work is the only thing that we're sending out at this point, because it's no cost to us, and that has its own interesting issues too these days with recalls. But we do everything.
Yeah, well, that's a big thing too that you might not think about are the recalls. When you've got 100 vehicles you got to worry about. That's you've got to pay attention to that stuff.
Yeah. The past few years, those little letters from Ford. We don't get many from Ford, but there's been a few more than the other manufacturers out there, and you have to take in consideration taking the vehicle offline, delivering it to the dealership, putting the officer in another vehicle. So it's a juggling act, but we can get it done. That's one of the biggest challenges lately.
Yeah, well, one of the biggest challenges, just thinking about if I had to worry about all those vehicles and maintaining them, how do you get a schedule established and stick to it as far as maintenance goes?
We have a very rigorous program that helps us extend the life of the vehicles and whatnot, and we keep in close contact with the department heads in each department. We have computerized systems. I have a system that we input everything that we do to the vehicle when it comes into the garage, and we run a weekly report, monthly report, quarterly. We just press a button and it can tell us every vehicle when its next oil change is going to be, and we utilize that. I use I'm on my computer every day, checking up on this stuff.
And that will generate a list for you of everyone that
I
needs
keep a redundant system. I have a file system. When we do the car, we fill out a slip, then I input it into the computer. So it's almost like the military in that sense, that we have a couple different ways that we can track our stuff. We have a gas boy system, so I can track usage of fuel with the vehicles. And by the way, we go through about 90,000 gallons of fuel a year, gasoline. And that's down. We used to use about 95,000. Now with the influx of the 6-cylinders, the Explorers, with the Crown Vics going away, we are seeing a gas savings. I said 5,000 gallons is good for me.
Yeah.
It helps our bottom line. But we use a lot of technology to help keep the scheduling going.
Nice. You know, it's interesting too. Most people, you know, they think about their own vehicle. I'm going to take my car for, you know, an interval. It used to be 3,000 miles, and now the manufacturers, the newer cars, seem to need it less. But let's say between 3,000 and 5,000 miles, they try and keep track, the little sticker in the window. And one of the things that you have to keep in mind with public safety vehicles is it doesn't necessarily equate to mileage.
Correct.
Because a lot of the time in public safety, and police vehicles in particular, is spent idling, correct? How do you deal with that?
Well, all fleet vehicles now come with an hour meter as well as an odometer. People in agricultural, heavy machinery, they understand about the hour meters. They've been out for years, but now it's on all the fleet vehicles. And the industry standard is for 1 hour of idling, it's the equivalent of 32 to 33 miles driven, depending on the manufacturer. But that's the little number right there. And our canines might have, our canine vehicles may have the lower mileage because they're doing perimeter, but in the fall that vehicle has to stay on running to keep the canine officer and the other officer warm. In the summer we have the AC. So what we use is we use the hour meter on those. Extended severe duty now is 5,000 miles, between 3,000 and 5,000 miles, but we also look at how many hours the vehicle is run, because canine we use more hours, and then everybody else we look at both of them. But that's an important key, because you may have a car that's has 1,500 miles on it, but it's got the hour equivalent of 4,000 miles on it. So that's the time to change the oil, definitely.
Yeah, and that's, you know, it's important because the maintenance of these vehicles, because they're, you know, even though they're more durable, it seems, and capable with, you know, a 6-cylinder is now doing the job of an 8-cylinder, and technology has been wonderful that way. We want to make sure, because there's a big investment in those vehicles, that we keep them going.
Very much.
That we get every bit of service from that vehicle that we can get. And that's another place that you guys, all three of you guys, have really excelled. Now that we're a state agency, you guys have the opportunity to travel to a state lot, is that right? And
that's correct.
What's the deal with that?
Now that we're a state agency, there's an auction lot in Westboro. When a vehicle is deemed junk or surplus, we don't have surplus. We run them. Our average vehicle goes to about 200,000 plus. When they're done and we've wrung them out, we will bring them up to the lot. And the deal that the state auction lot has going is if you bring them up a whole car and you see another car from another agency that you think you can reuse or repurpose, you can put a requisition in. And we've done quite well with them over the last couple of years. I have at least a half dozen awesome finds. We've gotten about 10 vehicles out of there.
Wow.
And seeing that we do the work ourselves, if it's gone up there because there's something broke, we can do it for significantly less that may keep the vehicle going.
Well, I know that I've noticed watching you guys as you leave, you've got the vehicle on a trailer.
Correct.
And then when you come back, the good news is that you're driving the other vehicle. So
correct, yeah.
I like the idea that we're able to, you know, get rid of some of this stuff. And that really, that tells me a few things. That, you know, we're getting a good deal on the state end of things, but also that we're really extracting every bit of service that we can from those vehicles that we've got. But you know, we've really gotten some good things up there. The bus that we got.
Yep, yeah, the Bluebird bus. We have a hybrid in the administration motor pool right now that we got out of the state auction lot. We've gotten a few pickup trucks, several vans.
Things for the farm.
For the farm, almost every division in the
Yeah.
sheriff's department has a vehicle that's from the state auction lot, and they really would like to repurpose the vehicles versus selling them
Yeah.
to somebody that, and they're not going to
Right.
get the money out of it. So they're very happy with us because we extend the life of these
Yeah.
vehicles, and it helps the state as well.
I also would be remiss if I didn't mention that one of the things that people who know us personally, and not just you and I, but the other guys in the garage, they know that we're car guys in
Oh,
our
yeah.
personal lives as well, and that we love this. And one of the stories that I've told recently, which was a bit of a disappointment to us, was you guys went up there and saw an old prisoner transportation van
Oh, yeah.
that dated to the 1950s.
Yeah.
But that vehicle had already been spoken for, because that's
Yeah,
one
yeah,
of the
we-
things that we love to get our hands on.
Yeah, it was an early 50s prisoner transport van with bars, the whole
Wow.
9 yards, and I was a day late and $1 short. I had brought up cars and everything, and they're like, no, or another agency that grabbed that.
Yeah.
Probably for the same purpose that we would have done.
Yeah, well,
but
let's hope so. I
community
mean,
service-
I'm glad to see the old vehicles like that repurposed and fixed up and brought out to show people, the nostalgia is a great thing, but also to show them how far we've come.
Definitely.
As far as these things go. And, as I say, we're car guys in our personal lives, and, one of the things that some people may see and have seen in parades is the 1954 Ford
the
custom line
Yeah.
cruiser that we have.
Beautiful car.
And I thank you. You are the guardian of that vehicle, and it's a wonderful thing. And when I drive that, or I'm sure if you drive that in a parade, people come out of the woodwork, and I love that. I see
From
that.
3 years old to 90. The kids, it looked like the sheriff's car on cars. And I can't tell you how many people, when we've brought it to different events, have come up, oh, I can remember that was the first car that I drove, a custom line, or people will ask
Yeah.
the year, the motor. A lot of very good memories come out. I've chatted with dozens of people, all ages.
Yeah, as have I. And, it's always fun if I have that at a car show or a cruise in, and somebody will come walking up and, make a wise guy type of a stay. What are you, the sheriff, huh? And actually I am, and I give him my business card,
Yep.
and, it always results in a good laugh for both of us, and
Yep.
he'll have a good story to tell when he goes home. But you're right, so many people love that car. I do know that the gentleman that we bought it from was the retired police chief from East Longmeadow,
East Longmeadow.
Massachusetts, and that had been used in movies. So I think they're filming a movie up in Marshfield now. They
Yep.
didn't
Yep.
they didn't call us, but hopefully in the future they will call us to use that in movies, because I think that's a great thing. We
Yeah.
keep it pretty true to its original
It's
form.
period correct.
Yeah,
Yep,
it's
down to the 6-volt positive ground,
and
drum
it's,
brakes.
and it's fun. We've also got. We would be remiss not to mention that several of our deputies, who are also car guys,
Yeah.
have vehicles. We have one gentleman who's got a 1971 Plymouth.
Yep, the Plymouth Valiant.
It looks beautiful. It's a slant 6, so that will run forever.
Yep,
I wish
the Tower of Power.
Indeed, yeah, and we get a lot of comments that we've brought that to a lot of shows as well. And a lot of people will look at it and laugh, because it's a 6, and they're used to the old police packages, these gigantic V8s, and
Right.
you say to them, well, there were many police vehicles then, and yeah, for highway pursuit that would have been used, but not for traffic enforcement in a
Yep,
city or
in the
something.
city.
You would have wanted something that was more economical. So that car is no less authentic than the Ford, and it's interesting to note that Ford, it's the 54 is a 239 cubic inch overhead valve, which is the
First year of the overhead valve,
overhead
yeah.
valve, yeah. I was recently watching my nephews. I have a nephew who is 9 years old, and he's just getting into a lot of those 1950s campy horror movies, and I'm watching them with him for the second or third time in my life, and because I loved those when I was a kid as well. But I get to see now. I recently watched that movie Them,
Oh, yes.
with the giant ants, and James Whitmore, I think it was, played the highway patrolman, and the vehicle that they use is exactly the same as our 54. It's a 54 Ford custom line. It's identical.
I'll watch the old movies just for the cars.
Yeah, yeah, it's great. And then we have another gentleman who has got a 1968 Fury 3, I think.
Yep, and that was a true detective's car in San Francisco. It's got the truck drums and truck drum brakes.
Yes.
It's got the special service tag right on the radiator.
Yeah, it's got the police package, basically, is what that is, from the 60s.
Yep.
And that's, what a great piece of history that is, for us to be able to bring those to car shows, to let the kids see, and the parents reminisce, and the grandparents many times reminisce about those cars that they rode in as kids, and the ones that they kept an eye peeled for when they were doing, if they were driving a bit fast or doing something like that.
Or sneaking into the drive-thru.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, all their friends in the trunk. But it's a great feeling, to know that we're preserving that history. And I recently was out to the city of San Diego for a conference, a police chiefs conference, and one of the things that really jumped out at me were at the convention center, they had a number of vehicles going all the way back to the 19-teens.
Wow.
And still lettered. There were prisoner transport vehicles, really impressive stuff. So I was talking to one of the local police officers there and complimenting them. I said, are these department-owned vehicles? And he told me, no, they weren't necessarily department. They were at one point, but what they have done is the patrolmen's union out there, the police officers union, gets to, when a line of vehicles goes out of service, they'll take some of the best exemplars of that particular line and they will preserve it. They've got a place where they keep these things located and they bring them out for parades, for car shows, and they basically are an archive, a physical archive of all of the police vehicles for the city of
Well, that's
San
better
Diego.
than pictures.
It is. It's and I know that we struggled looking for pictures to find out how that vehicle would have been done up. And as time has gone on, those vehicles have changed. When I was a kid and you were a kid, station wagons were frequently used. And now I think you'd be very hard pressed to find a station wagon.
A station wagon or a two-door. Back in the 50s, they used two-doors on the highway patrols.
Yeah, it's really been something. But people don't necessarily think about some of the other things that you guys have done, like the firearms trailer, that tractor trailer, and the
Kenworth T600.
And the Kenworth, T600. You guys recently undertook a big project with the Kenworth, right? Can you talk about that?
Yes, that was a fun project, big. The tractor that we have that hauls the firearms trailer ended up having an engine failure. We got the vehicle donated to us. It had about 600,000 miles when this occurred. We don't know what it had for past maintenance. So we brought that. We got a price quote. Vendor wanted $23,500 to do an in-chassis engine rebuild.
Wow.
And with the talented staff that we have in our fleet, we did that ourselves in our garage on property, and we saved the department north of $10,000, and we did additional work. We rebuilt the air brake system at the same time. So for around $13,000 and a couple of days worth of work, the Plymouth County Sheriff's Department fleet did an in-chassis engine rebuild on that. New pistons, new sleeves, remanufactured heads. And so that was a boon to the taxpayers, a boon to us, helped keep my budget in check. Nice. And that truck, we'll have that truck.
Another 20 years?
Yeah, another 750 to 1 million miles, 750,000.
Well, Chris, it's been great having you here. We could go
again,
on for
thank you,
quite
Sheriff,
some time and show pictures of all these vehicles. But thank you for coming in. And at the risk of being cliche from the 1970s, I'd like to say thank you, but also keep on trucking.
There you go.
All right,
thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.